Every night, your body carries hidden powers, waiting to be unlocked. What if a single command before sleep could spark deep healing and restore your energy from within? Ancient wisdom and modern science both point to a simple practice that reprograms your mind and awakens your cells as you rest. In this video, you will learn the exact phrase to speak before closing your eyes, so your nights turn into your most powerful medicine. There is a command that moves through the darkness of your sleeping hours, a decree spoken in the final moments before consciousness fades, and this command travels deeper than any waking thought could ever penetrate, moving past the fortress of your conscious mind, past the gates of reason and doubt, descending into the vast kingdom of your subconscious, where every cell listens, where every atom responds, where the blueprint of your body awaits instruction. You speak into the night, and the night carries your words into the laboratory of your being, into the place where healing is manufactured, where regeneration occurs, where the body knows its perfection and remembers its original design. The hours of sleep are not merely rest, they are reconstruction. They are the sacred time when your subconscious mind takes dominion over your flesh, when the conscious reasoning that blocks and questions and doubts has finally surrendered its tyranny, when the deeper intelligence can work unimpeded by fear or negative expectation. What you say before sleep becomes the architect's instruction, the master blueprint from which your body builds itself anew through the night. Cell by cell, tissue by tissue, organ by organ, and if you speak health into that darkness, health rises with the morning light. And if you speak disease, disease multiplies in those hidden hours when your conscious guard has fallen. A woman said to Dr. Joseph Murphy that she had suffered from a chronic condition for 7 years, that she had tried every treatment, every remedy, every doctor's prescription, and nothing had changed the pattern of her suffering. Murphy asked her what were the last thoughts she entertained before sleep claimed her each night, and she admitted that she rehearsed her symptoms, that she catalogued her pain, that she told herself the story of her affliction as if it were a prayer, as if repetition could somehow solve what it was actually reinforcing. She was commanding her subconscious to maintain her illness, to preserve it, to rebuild it with greater precision each night, and her body obeyed because the subconscious does not argue, it does not debate, it accepts what you feed it and manufactures your experience accordingly. The subconscious mind is the builder, the craftsman, the faithful servant that never questions the orders given by the master. And if the master speaks disease, the servant builds disease. And if the master speaks health, the servant builds health with the same unwavering loyalty. Your body is listening in the darkness. Your body is waiting for instruction. Your body does not resist the command. You give it in those final moments before sleep sweeps over you like a tide. And what you must understand is that the subconscious mind operates most powerfully in the state between waking and sleeping, in that twilight zone where consciousness begins to dissolve and the deeper mind rises to take command of all your bodily functions, all your healing processes, all the intricate work of cellular repair and regeneration that occurs while you lie motionless in your bed. A man told Dr. Joseph Murphy that he had been plagued by insomnia for months, that his mind raced with worry and fear each night, that he would lie awake rehearsing tomorrow's problems and yesterday's failures. And Dr. Murphy explained to him that he was using the most powerful time of day in the most destructive way possible, that he was programming his subconscious mind with anxiety and dread when he should have been programming it with peace and confidence and healing. And the man learned to speak a different command into the night, to say with conviction and feeling that his sleep would be deep and restorative, that his body knew how to heal itself, that infinite intelligence was guiding every cell through the darkness toward perfect health. Within days, his sleep returned. Within weeks, his chronic tension dissolved, and he understood that the subconscious mind had simply been waiting for new instructions, for a new blueprint, for a command that aligned with life rather than death, with health rather than sickness, with peace rather than turmoil. The night command is not a magic spell. It is not superstition. It is the practical application of a law as reliable as gravity, as dependable as the rising sun, And this law states that your subconscious mind accepts as true whatever you impress upon it with feeling and repetition. And during sleep, your conscious mind cannot interfere with this process, cannot inject doubt or fear or contradiction, cannot sabotage the healing work that your deeper intelligence performs when given clear direction. You must speak to your body as a loving authority speaks to a trusted servant, with clarity and conviction and absolute expectation of obedience, and you must do this every night without exception, without wavering, without allowing the circumstances of your day to dictate the command you give before sleep. If you have pain, you do not speak of pain, you speak of comfort and ease and perfect function. If you have disease, you do not name the disease, you declare health and wholeness and divine right order in every organ and tissue and cell. If you have fear, you do not rehearse catastrophe, you affirm safety and protection and the infinite wisdom that governs all life. Every night is a new beginning. Every moment before sleep is an opportunity to plant seeds in the garden of your subconscious. And what you plant in the evening you harvest in the morning. And if you plant weeds, you cannot expect flowers. And if you plant poison, you cannot expect nourishment. And if you plant fear, you cannot expect peace to bloom in your experience. The subconscious does not evaluate, it does not judge, it does not question the wisdom of what you command. It simply accepts and executes, and this is why you must become the conscious guardian of your pre-sleep thoughts, the vigilant sentinel who permits only healing words and life-giving images to pass through the gate into the kingdom where your body rebuilds itself through the night. A woman said to Dr. Joseph Murphy that she had tried affirmations during the day, but they felt false and empty, that she could not make herself believe them, while her symptoms screamed the opposite message, and Dr. Murphy told her that the daytime affirmations were fighting against her conscious resistance, against her reason and her senses and her accumulated beliefs. But the nighttime command slipped past all those defenses, entered the subconscious without opposition, worked in the darkness where belief is not required, only acceptance, only the simple act of impression upon the deeper mind that knows no impossibility. You do not need faith to command your subconscious. You need only persistence and clarity, and the understanding that your body is not your enemy. Your body is your servant. Your body wants to be well. Your body is designed for health. Your body carries within it the pattern of perfection from which it was originally formed. And when you align your conscious command with that original pattern, when you speak health into the night with the same certainty that you expect the sun to rise, your body responds because it has no choice, because the law is the law, because the subconscious mind is the builder, and you are the architect, and the building must conform to the blueprint you provide. The woman began to whisper her healing command each night as she drifted towards sleep, simple words repeated with drowsy conviction, and she noticed within weeks that her symptoms began to shift, that her body began to remember its own wholeness, that healing was not something she had to force or manipulate, but something that emerged naturally when she stopped commanding her subconscious to maintain her illness and started commanding it to restore her health. The night is your ally, the darkness is your workshop. The hours of sleep are the sacred time when the deeper powers take over and reconstruct your body according to the dominant impression in your subconscious mind. And if that impression is one of health and vitality and perfect function, then health and vitality and perfect function must manifest in your flesh. Because the law does not make exceptions. The law does not play favorites. The law operates for everyone equally and impartially, responding only to the nature of the command given, the clarity of the impression made, the persistence of the belief impressed upon the receptive subconscious mind. A man told Dr. Joseph Murphy that he had been given a frightening diagnosis, that doctors had told him his condition was irreversible, that he had accepted their verdict as final truth and had begun to prepare for the worst. And Dr. Murphy asked him if he knew that every cell in his body was listening to his acceptance of that verdict, that his subconscious mind was receiving the diagnosis as a command, as an instruction to fulfill the prophecy of disease that he had agreed to believe. The man realized he had been speaking death into his own body, that he had been commanding his cells to conform to the doctor's prognosis. And he understood that he could speak a different command, that he could impress a different image upon his subconscious mind, regardless of what the diagnosis claimed. He began each night to speak firmly and gently to his body, to tell his cells that they were renewing themselves in perfect health, that divine intelligence was flowing through every organ and restoring right action and harmony. That his body knew the pattern of wholeness and was returning to that pattern now, and he did this not with desperation but with calm authority, not begging but commanding, not hoping but declaring. And within months the symptoms began to recede, the markers began to improve, and his doctors spoke of remission and spontaneous recovery. But the man knew there was nothing spontaneous about it, that he had systematically reprogrammed his subconscious mind through the nightly command, through the persistent impression of health upon the receptive darkness of sleep, through the faithful repetition of life-giving words spoken in the threshold between waking and sleeping, when the subconscious stands ready to receive and obey. The subconscious mind is always listening, but it listens most intently in those moments before sleep, because the conscious mind is releasing its grip, because the critical faculty is fading, because the gateway stands open and unguarded. And whatever passes through that gateway in those sacred moments becomes the blueprint for the night's reconstruction, the template from which your body rebuilds itself atom by atom through the hours of darkness. You must understand that your words before sleep are not mere wishes or vague hopes. They are commands issued to the most powerful creative force in your individual world, to the builder of your body, to the intelligence that beats your heart and digests your food and heals your wounds without any conscious instruction from you. And when you give this intelligence a clear command saturated with feeling and expectation, it moves heaven and earth to fulfill that command. It mobilizes every resource. It activates every healing mechanism. It draws upon infinite intelligence to bring your body into alignment with the picture you have impressed upon it. A woman said to Dr. Joseph Murphy that she had spent years in resentment and bitterness, that every night she would lie in bed rehearsing the wrongs done to her, replaying conversations where she had been hurt or dismissed or betrayed, and she wondered why her body had become a catalogue of ailments, why her health had deteriorated year after year despite medical treatment. And Dr. Murphy explained that she had been poisoning her subconscious mind with toxic emotions, that she had been commanding her body to manifest the discord and disease that matched the discord and disease in her thoughts, that resentment is a slow poison that kills from within because the subconscious accepts it as instruction and builds your experience accordingly. She learned to forgive before sleep, to release the day's grievances, to speak words of peace and harmony and love into the darkness, and her body responded as bodies always respond when given a command of life instead of a command of death, when programmed with healing instead of harm, when saturated with forgiveness instead of bitterness. The hours you spend in sleep are too precious to waste on worry and fear and rehearsal of problems that may never come to pass, too valuable to squander on mental reruns of past failures or imagined future catastrophes, too powerful to contaminate with the debris of the day's frustrations and disappointments. And you must learn to cleanse your mind before sleep, the way you would cleanse your body, to wash away the accumulation of negative thought, to enter sleep with a clean slate upon which your healing command can be written in clear, bold letters that your subconscious mind cannot misread or ignore. The command must be simple, because the subconscious responds to simplicity. It must be positive because the subconscious does not process negation the way the conscious mind does. It must be repeated because repetition is the mother of retention, and what you repeat, you impress, and what you impress, you manifest. And it must be spoken with feeling because feeling is the language of the subconscious. Feeling is what gives your words their power. Feeling is what transforms a mere statement into a living command that the deeper mind accepts as truth and sets about to demonstrate in your flesh. A man told Dr. Joseph Murphy that he had tried to heal himself through affirmations, but nothing changed, that he had repeated positive statements until they became meaningless sounds, until they lost all power and became just empty words rattling around in his head. And Dr. Murphy asked him if he had spoken those words with conviction or with doubt, with feeling or with mechanical repetition, with the expectation of a gardener planting seeds, or with the cynicism of someone going through motions he does not believe in. The subconscious mind responds not to the words themselves, but to the conviction behind the words, to the emotional charge that accompanies them, to the faith or fear that saturates them. And if you speak words of health while feeling expectation of disease, the subconscious receives the feeling and ignores the words, because feeling is the real language. Feeling is the currency of the subconscious realm. Feeling is what impresses, and what impression governs manifestation. You must feel your words. You must sink into them. You must let them carry you into sleep on a wave of confident expectation. And if you cannot feel them at first, you must persist until feeling comes. You must repeat until the words become more real than your symptoms, until the command becomes more powerful than your circumstances, until the impression of health overwhelms the impression of disease that has been dominating your subconscious mind. The man learned to speak his nightly command with emotion, to visualize health flooding through his body, to feel gratitude for healing even before evidence appeared. And his subconscious mind responded to this emotional saturation the way soil responds to water, receiving it, absorbing it, allowing it to activate the seeds of health that had been lying dormant, waiting for the right conditions to germinate and grow. Every night you have a choice. Every moment before sleep presents you with a decision that will determine the quality of your body's reconstruction through the dark hours, and you can choose to rehearse your problems or to declare your solutions, to focus on symptoms or to affirm perfect health, to carry the day's burdens into sleep or to release them and enter rest with a mind cleansed and prepared to receive the healing work that only the subconscious can perform. A woman said to Dr. Joseph Murphy that she was afraid to let go of her vigilance, that she felt she must monitor her symptoms constantly, that she must remain alert to any change or warning sign. And Dr. Murphy told her that her constant vigilance was itself a command to her subconscious mind, a command that said the disease is real and permanent and must be watched, a command that reinforced the very condition she wanted to eliminate. And he explained that true healing requires a kind of holy indifference to symptoms, a refusal to give them authority, a determination to impress health upon the subconscious, regardless of what the body seems to be manifesting in the present moment. Your body in this moment is the result of yesterday's thinking, yesterday's feeling, yesterday's commands to your subconscious mind. And if you want a different body tomorrow, you must give different commands today. You must impress different images tonight. You must speak different words into the darkness before sleep claims you. And you must do this with the unwavering certainty that the law is working, that the subconscious is responding, that healing is occurring beneath the surface even when symptoms remain visible, because the subconscious works invisibly before it works visibly. It changes the pattern before it changes the manifestation. It rewrites the blueprint before it rebuilds the structure. The woman released her fearful monitoring. She stopped examining herself for signs of disease. She began each night to affirm complete and perfect health, to see herself whole and vital and strong, to feel gratitude for the healing intelligence that was working through her body. And gradually, her symptoms faded. Gradually, her strength returned. Gradually, the disease that had seemed so permanent revealed itself to be nothing more than a habit of thought that had been impressed upon her subconscious mind through years of fear and worry and negative expectation, a habit that could be replaced with a new habit, a healing habit, a command of life, spoken faithfully into the darkness, night after night, until the subconscious accepted it as the new truth and began to manifest it in her flesh. The night command is not optional for those who wish to heal. It is not a suggestion or a pleasant idea to consider. It is a necessity. It is the practical application of the most powerful law governing human experience. And if you neglect this command, if you allow yourself to drift into sleep on currents of worry and fear and negative thought, you are commanding your subconscious to maintain or worsen your condition. You are instructing your body to conform to disease rather than health. You are using the most powerful creative time in the most destructive way possible. A man told Dr. Joseph Murphy that he understood the principle intellectually but could not seem to apply it consistently, and that some nights he would give his healing command with conviction, and other nights he would forget or fall asleep while worrying about his condition. And Dr. Murphy explained that the subconscious responds to dominant impressions, to the prevailing mental atmosphere, to the commands that are repeated most frequently with the most feeling, and one night of positive affirmation cannot undo years of negative programming, any more than one day of healthy eating can undo years of poor nutrition. You must persist. You must make the night command a sacred ritual. You must guard the gateway to sleep as carefully as you would guard the door to your home, permitting only those thoughts and words and images that serve your healing to pass through into the realm where your subconscious waits to receive instruction and begin its nightly work of reconstruction and renewal. The man established a routine. He set aside the final minutes before sleep as holy time, as time dedicated to impressing health upon his subconscious mind, and he refused to allow the day's chaos or tomorrow's concerns to intrude upon this sacred practice. And within weeks, the practice became natural. Within months, his body began to transform. Within a year, he had experienced a complete reversal of the condition that had plagued him, and he understood that persistence is not merely repetition, but faithful repetition, not merely saying the words, but living in the feeling of them, not merely going through the motions, but surrendering to the truth of what you are declaring until the declaration becomes more real than the circumstance it is meant to change. The subconscious mind knows nothing of time as you understand it. It knows only now, only this moment, only the present impression, and when you give it a command of health before sleep, you are not asking it to heal you tomorrow or next week or next month. You are declaring health now. You are impressing the pattern of wholeness now. You are commanding the subconscious to accept as present reality the health you desire. And the subconscious accepts this command and begins immediately to reorganize your body according to the new pattern, and to redirect energy and resources toward the fulfillment of the image you have impressed upon it. A woman said to Dr. Joseph Murphy that she had been praying for healing for years, but her prayers seemed to go unanswered, that she had begged and pleaded with God to remove her affliction, but nothing changed, and Dr. Murphy asked her to describe her prayers, and she admitted that every prayer was a recitation of her problem, a detailed description of her suffering, a desperate petition from the position of sickness, hoping somehow to reach the position of health. And Dr. Murphy explained that she had been praying the problem instead of praying the solution, that she had been impressing disease upon her subconscious mind with every prayer, that true prayer is not begging but accepting, not describing what is wrong but declaring what is right, not speaking from sickness, hoping for health, but speaking from health as if it were already manifested in your experience. Prayer before sleep is the most powerful prayer you can offer because the subconscious is most receptive, because resistance is lowest, because the conscious mind, with all its doubts and fears and contradictions, is releasing its hold. And in that release, there is an opening, a gateway, a moment of pure receptivity when what you impress goes deep or goes beneath the surface disturbances, goes into the quiet depths where the real work of transformation occurs. The woman learned to pray differently, to give thanks for her healing as if it were already complete, to feel in her body the vitality and strength she desired, to speak to her subconscious mind, not as a beggar, but as a queen, giving commands to her loyal subjects. And her body responded because the subconscious knows only to obey, knows only to build according to the blueprint given, knows only to manifest the dominant impression, regardless of whether that impression reflects current reality or desired reality. And when the desired reality is impressed with sufficient feeling and repetition and conviction, it becomes the current reality, because the subconscious makes no distinction between what is vividly imagined and what is physically experienced. You are the master of your subconscious mind. You are the architect of your body's reconstruction. You are the authority that commands, and the subconscious is the power that executes. And this relationship must be understood clearly, or you will continue to be a victim of random thoughts and accumulated fears and inherited beliefs that poison your subconscious mind and manifest as disease in your flesh. A man told Dr. Joseph Murphy that he had inherited a family history of certain ailments, that his father and grandfather had suffered the same conditions, that he assumed he was genetically destined to follow the same path, and Dr. Murphy explained that genetic inheritance is not destiny. That genes are switches that can be turned on or off by the environment you create through your thinking and feeling and believing, that the subconscious mind governs genetic expression and responds to the commands you give it regardless of what your ancestors experienced. The man had been commanding his subconscious to fulfill the family pattern, to manifest the inherited disease, to prove that biology is destiny. And his body obeyed because the subconscious does not argue with your beliefs. It simply accepts them and demonstrates them in your experience. And if you believe you must be sick because your father was sick, the subconscious will make you sick. And if you believe you can be well regardless of your father's experience, the subconscious will make you well. Because belief is the command, and manifestation is the response, and the law operates according to your conviction, not according to your heredity. Every night before sleep, you have the opportunity to break the chains of genetic inheritance, to override the patterns of family disease, and to command your subconscious mind to express only health and vitality, regardless of what genes you carry or what conditions your ancestors suffered. And this is not denial of biology, but understanding of a higher law, the law of mind, the law of consciousness, the law that states your dominant mental impressions govern your bodily experience, regardless of physical heredity. The man began to affirm each night that he was free from family patterns, that his body expressed only perfect health, that divine intelligence was flowing through his genes and activating only those patterns that served his highest good. And over time, his body ceased to manifest the family disease. Over time, he broke free from the prophecy he had inherited. Over time, he proved that consciousness is superior to genetics, that mind governs matter, that the commands you give your subconscious before sleep are more powerful than the codes written in your DNA, because those codes respond to consciousness. Those codes are influenced by belief. Those codes are activated or suppressed according to the mental atmosphere you create through your habitual thinking, and especially through the commands you speak into the darkness before sleep, when the subconscious is most receptive to new instruction. The night command must be specific enough to give clear direction, but general enough to allow the subconscious wisdom to work in its own perfect way. And you must not try to tell the subconscious how to heal you. You must only tell it what you desire, and trust it to find the means, to activate the mechanisms, to orchestrate the countless processes that bring healing into manifestation. A woman said to Dr. Joseph Murphy that she had been trying to visualize every detail of her healing, to imagine every cell being repaired, to mentally direct every biological process, and she felt exhausted by the effort, overwhelmed by the complexity, frustrated by her inability to control and monitor every aspect of her body's reconstruction. And Dr. Murphy told her she was trying to do the subconscious mind's job, that she was operating from the conscious level of effort and strain when she should have been operating from the subconscious level of trust and release. The subconscious mind knows how to heal your body far better than your conscious mind could ever direct. It knows which cells need attention, which systems require adjustment, which processes must be activated or suppressed. And when you give it a simple, clear command of perfect health, and then release that command with trust and faith, the subconscious goes to work with an intelligence and precision that far exceeds anything your conscious effort could achieve. The woman learned to simplify her night command, to speak a few words affirming complete and perfect health, to visualize herself whole and vital without trying to control the details, to trust the infinite intelligence working through her subconscious mind to accomplish what her conscious mind could never manage. And when she released the burden of trying to heal herself through conscious effort and instead commanded her subconscious with simple authority and then let go, her body began to heal in ways she had not imagined. through processes she had not considered, by means she could not have consciously directed, and she understood that the subconscious is the healer, and your only role is to give it clear instruction, and then step aside and let it work. Your conscious mind is the chooser, the decider, the one who sets the goal and impresses the command. But your subconscious mind is the achiever, the executor, the one who takes your command and translates it into physical reality through 1,000 invisible processes that operate beneath your awareness. And when you try to control those processes consciously, you interfere with them, you block them, you introduce doubt and confusion where there should be only trust and clarity. A man told Dr. Joseph Murphy that he had given his healing command, but then spent the night worrying about whether it would work, analyzing whether he had said it correctly, questioning whether he had enough faith, monitoring his body for immediate changes. And Dr. Murphy explained that all this conscious interference was contradicting the command, that worry is a command for continued disease, that analysis paralyzes the subconscious, that monitoring for results demonstrates expectation of failure, and the subconscious responds to the dominant emotion, not to the words you speak. So if you speak health with your words but worry with your feelings, the worry wins because feeling is the language of the subconscious realm. You must speak your command and then surrender. Affirm your healing and then release it. Press your subconscious and then trust it to do its perfect work without interference from your conscious doubts and fears and questions. And this surrender is not passivity but power, not weakness but wisdom, not giving up but letting go of the need to control what the infinite intelligence within you already knows how to accomplish. The man learned to give his command with conviction and then immediately turn his attention to gratitude, to thank his subconscious for the healing that was already beginning, to feel appreciation for the intelligence that was working through him, to rest in the certainty that the law was operating regardless of what his conscious mind could see or measure. And when he stopped interfering with worry and started cooperating with trust, his healing accelerated because the subconscious was finally free to work without the constant contradiction of conscious fear. The command you speak before sleep is a seed planted in the darkness of your subconscious mind, and like any seed, it requires the right conditions to germinate and grow, and those conditions are faith and patience, and the absence of constant digging up to check on progress. And if you plant the seed and then immediately uproot it with doubt, if you water it with worry, if you poison the soil with fear, the seed cannot grow no matter how powerful it might have been, no matter how perfect the command you spoke. A woman said to Dr. Joseph Murphy that she had been affirming health for weeks, but saw no change in her symptoms, that she was beginning to doubt the process, beginning to think perhaps the law did not work for her, beginning to consider giving up and accepting her condition as permanent. And Dr. Murphy asked her if a farmer plants seeds one day and expects a full harvest the next day, if a woman becomes pregnant one week and expects to give birth the next week, if anyone begins a journey and expects to arrive before taking the necessary steps, all manifestation requires a period of gestation, a time of invisible growth, a season of preparation when the subconscious is reorganizing patterns and redirecting energies and building the foundation for the healing that will eventually appear in your physical experience. And if you abandon your command during this gestation period, if you return to negative thinking, if you re-impress disease upon your subconscious because you see no immediate evidence of change, and you abort the healing process, just as surely as a farmer who plows up his field before the seeds have time to sprout, destroys his harvest before it has a chance to grow. The woman understood that her impatience was itself a form of doubt, that her demand for immediate results revealed her lack of trust in the process, that she had been commanding health one moment and disease the next, affirming wholeness before sleep, and then spending her waking hours focused on symptoms. And Dr. Murphy explained that this divided mind cannot receive anything because the subconscious is receiving contradictory instructions, building health at night and disease during the day, and whichever impression is dominant and most frequently repeated will win, whichever command is given with the most feeling will manifest, whichever pattern is most consistently impressed will determine your physical experience. You must become single-minded in your night command, unwavering in your conviction, persistent in your practice, and patient with the process. Knowing that the law is working even when you see no evidence, trusting that the subconscious is responding even when symptoms remain, believing that healing is occurring beneath the surface even when the surface appears unchanged. Because the invisible always precedes the visible, the inner transformation always precedes the outer manifestation. The change in consciousness always precedes the change in condition. A man told Dr. Joseph Murphy that he had been practicing the night command faithfully, but his family and friends kept asking about his symptoms, kept reminding him of his diagnosis, kept expressing concern and pity and doubt, and their constant focus on his disease was making it difficult for him to maintain his own focus on health. Their worry was infecting his consciousness. Their fear was weakening his faith, and he wondered how he could protect the seed he was planting each night from the negative influences that surrounded him during the day. Dr. Murphy explained that you cannot control what others think or say, but you can control what you accept into your consciousness, that you can listen politely to their concerns without adopting their fears, that you can receive their questions without allowing those questions to shake your conviction, that you can be surrounded by doubt and still maintain faith if you understand that their opinion has no power over your subconscious unless you give it power by accepting it as truth. The man learned to deflect negative conversations gracefully, to change the subject when people wanted to discuss his disease, to protect his consciousness the way you would protect a garden from weeds, pulling out immediately any thought or word or suggestion that contradicted the healing command he was impressing upon his subconscious each night. And he understood that his primary responsibility was not to convince others of his healing, but to convince his own subconscious mind, not to change their beliefs, but to maintain his own belief regardless of their doubts, not to defend his practice, but to continue his practice with unwavering faithfulness until the evidence appeared that would silence all questions and dissolve all doubts. The subconscious mind is your private domain, your inner sanctuary, and your sacred temple, where you alone decide what shall be believed and accepted and impressed upon the creative medium that builds your body and governs your health. And no one can enter that domain without your permission. No one can contaminate that sanctuary unless you open the door and invite them in. No one can override your commands to your subconscious unless you abandon your own authority and surrender to their opinions and fears and limiting beliefs. A woman said to Dr. Joseph Murphy that her doctor had given her a prognosis of limited time, that the medical authority had spoken with certainty about the progression of her disease, that she felt torn between the night command she was practicing and the professional diagnosis she had received, and she wondered if she was being foolish to contradict medical science with mental affirmations, if she was deluding herself with false hope, if she should accept the expert opinion and prepare for the inevitable outcome they had predicted. Dr. Murphy told her that doctors deal with averages and statistics and past cases, that they observe patterns and make predictions based on what usually happens. But the subconscious mind is not bound by statistics, not limited by past patterns, not constrained by what usually happens, and when you impress a new pattern upon your subconscious with sufficient conviction and feeling, you create an exception to the rule. You become the case that defies the average. You demonstrate that consciousness can override circumstance when consciousness is properly directed. Medical diagnosis is observation of what is, but your night command is declaration of what shall be. And if you accept the diagnosis as final truth, you command your subconscious to fulfill it. But if you acknowledge the current condition while affirming a different outcome, you give your subconscious permission to create change, to activate healing mechanisms that may have been dormant, and to demonstrate possibilities that statistics did not account for, because statistics measure the past, and your subconscious creates the future according to your dominant impressions. The woman decided to respect medical treatment while maintaining her own mental treatment, to cooperate with doctors while commanding her subconscious, to receive their care without accepting their verdict as unchangeable destiny, and she spoke each night with absolute conviction that her body was filled with healing life, that every cell was renewing itself in perfect health. that divine intelligence was working through her in ways beyond medical understanding, and over months her body responded in ways her doctors called remarkable. Her condition improved beyond their predictions. Her vitality returned despite their prognosis, and they spoke of unexpected remission, while she knew there was nothing unexpected about it, because she had been commanding her subconscious to produce exactly this result through the faithful practice of the night command that impressed health upon her creative mind when it was most receptive to new patterns. You must decide whether you will be governed by outer opinion or inner conviction, whether you will accept the verdict of circumstances or command the creation of new circumstances, whether you will surrender to the statistics that predict your future or impress upon your subconscious a different future that your faith and feeling and persistent night command bring into manifestation. A man told Dr. Joseph Murphy that he felt guilty practicing the night command because it seemed selfish to focus on his own healing when so many others were suffering, that he wondered if he should be praying for others instead of commanding health for himself, that he felt uncomfortable claiming perfect health when disease was so widespread in the world. And Dr. Murphy explained that you cannot give what you do not have, that you cannot heal others if you remain sick yourself, that the greatest service you can render to humanity is to demonstrate the power of consciousness over condition, to prove that the law works, to become living evidence that the subconscious responds to proper instruction, regardless of outer circumstances, or inherited patterns, or statistical probabilities. Your healing is not selfish. Your wholeness is not self-centered. Your practice of the night command is not withdrawal from the world, but preparation to serve the world from a position of strength rather than weakness, from health rather than disease, from demonstration rather than theory. And when people see that you have healed yourself through the power of your own consciousness, they will ask how you did it, and you can teach them the same principle, the same practice, the same law that operates equally for all who understand it and apply it faithfully. The man released his false guilt and embraced his healing practice with renewed dedication, understanding that his recovery would inspire others, that his demonstration would give hope to the hopeless, that his faithfulness to the night command would prove the principle to those who doubt. And he spoke each night with authority and conviction, commanding his subconscious to manifest perfect health, feeling gratitude for the infinite intelligence that was working through him, trusting the law that never fails when properly applied, and his body transformed, and his life changed, and his example became a beacon for others who were struggling with disease and doubt and despair. The night command is not complicated. It does not require special knowledge or mystical training or years of study. It requires only understanding of the simple principle that your subconscious mind accepts what you impress upon it and creates your bodily experience accordingly. And the time just before sleep is when your subconscious is most impressionable, most receptive, most ready to accept new patterns and begin the work of manifesting them in your flesh. A woman said to Dr. Joseph Murphy that she had been making the practice too complicated, that she had been trying to craft the perfect affirmation with exactly the right words in precisely the right order, and she felt paralyzed by the fear of saying something wrong, of giving her subconscious a flawed command that might produce unintended results. And Dr. Murphy told her that the subconscious responds to meaning and feeling more than to perfect grammar, that a simple, heartfelt statement of health, spoken with conviction, is more powerful than an elaborate affirmation, spoken with doubt, that you cannot make a mistake if your intention is clear, and your feeling is positive, and your expectation is health. She learned to speak simply, to say with feeling that her body was whole and perfect, that healing life flowed through every cell, that she was grateful for her health and vitality, and she released the anxiety about perfection and embraced the practice with childlike simplicity and trust, and her body responded to this uncomplicated faith more powerfully than it had ever responded to her anxious attempts at perfect technique. Because the subconscious does not grade your performance, it receives your impression, and the clearer and simpler and more emotionally charged that impression, the more powerfully it manifests in your physical experience. A man told Dr. Joseph Murphy that he had been practicing the night command for months and had experienced significant improvement, but not complete healing. That he wondered if he should change his approach, try different words, adopt a new technique. And Dr. Murphy asked him if a farmer, seeing his crops growing but not yet ready for harvest, would plow them under and plant something else. If a woman pregnant for 6 months but not yet ready to deliver would abandon the pregnancy and start over. If anyone seeing progress would stop the process before completion simply because completion had not yet arrived. Partial improvement is proof that the law is working, that your subconscious is responding, that the pattern is changing, and the proper response to partial success is not to abandon your practice, but to continue it with renewed faith, to persist with greater conviction, and to maintain the night command with unwavering consistency until the work that has begun is brought to full completion, because the subconscious needs time to reorganize patterns that may have been established over years or decades, to rebuild structures that disease has damaged, to restore functions that have been impaired. And if you change your command before the work is finished, you confuse the subconscious. You interrupt the process. You start over when you should be finishing what you began. The man understood that his impatience was testing his faith, that his desire for instant completion was undermining the steady progress he had already achieved, and he renewed his commitment to the night command, speaking the same words with deeper feeling, impressing the same pattern with greater conviction, trusting the same law with stronger faith. And within weeks the remaining symptoms dissolved. Within months his healing was complete, and he learned that persistence is the price of manifestation. That consistency is the key to subconscious reprogramming. The night command must be maintained, not until you see results, but until results are complete and the body has fully conformed to the pattern of health you have been faithfully impressing upon your creative mind. The subconscious mind never tires, never sleeps, never stops working, and every night while your conscious mind rests, the subconscious is busy executing the last command you gave it, building according to the blueprint you provided, manifesting the pattern you impressed upon it in those final moments before sleep. And this is why you must never go to sleep in a state of fear or anger or resentment or worry. Never allow the last impression of the day to be negative. Never permit your final conscious thought to be anything less than harmonious and healing and life-affirming. A woman said to Dr. Joseph Murphy that she had gotten into an argument just before bed, that she had gone to sleep angry and upset, and she woke feeling worse than she had in months. Her symptoms intensified, her pain increased, her condition aggravated, and she wondered why one night of negative emotion could undo weeks of faithful practice. Dr. Murphy explained that she had commanded her subconscious to manifest discord, that she had impressed upon it the pattern of conflict and distress, that anger and resentment are powerful emotions that the subconscious accepts as commands and translates into corresponding bodily conditions, and one night of intense negative emotion can indeed override many nights of mild positive affirmation. If the negative emotion is stronger, if the negative impression is deeper, if the negative command is given with more feeling than the positive command you have been practicing, this is why you must guard your pre-sleep state with absolute vigilance, why you must resolve conflicts before bed, why you must forgive offenses before sleep, why you must release the day's disturbances and enter rest in a state of peace and harmony and positive expectation. Because the command you give in anger is still a command. The impression you make in fear is still an impression. The pattern you establish in resentment is still a pattern, and your subconscious will faithfully manifest whatever you impress upon it, regardless of whether that impression serves your healing or perpetuates your disease. The woman learned to never go to bed angry, to resolve disagreements before sleep, or at least to release them emotionally, to forgive those who had offended her not for their sake but for her own sake. For the sake of her health, for the sake of the healing work her subconscious needed to perform through the night without interference from toxic emotions and negative commands. And she established a pre-sleep ritual of forgiveness and release and peace, cleansing her consciousness before impressing her healing command upon her subconscious, and her body responded with renewed vitality and steady improvement because she had learned to protect the sacred time before sleep, from contamination by the day's discord and disturbance. You are the guardian of your consciousness, the protector of your subconscious impressions, the vigilant sentinel who decides what shall be permitted to enter your mind in those precious moments before sleep, when the gateway stands open and the creative power waits to receive instruction. And if you fail in this guardianship, if you allow negative thoughts and toxic emotions and fearful expectations to pour through that gateway, you cannot blame your subconscious for the disease it manifests, because the subconscious is only obeying your command, only building according to your blueprint, only creating the experience that matches the dominant impression you have given it. A man told Dr. Joseph Murphy that he understood the principle intellectually but found it difficult to maintain positive thoughts when his circumstances were negative, when his symptoms were screaming pain, when his finances were stressed and his relationships were strained and his future looked uncertain. And Dr. Murphy told him that this is precisely why the night command is so powerful, because it allows you to bypass your circumstances, to ignore your current conditions, to impress health upon your subconscious, regardless of what your body is experiencing in the moment. And the darkness of sleep is merciful because it hides your circumstances from view, it quiets the voices of doubt and fear, it creates a space where you can speak pure command without the contradiction of visible evidence. Your circumstances are the result of past thinking, past feeling, past commands to your subconscious, and if you continue to think and feel and command according to your circumstances, you will perpetuate those circumstances indefinitely. You will remain trapped in the pattern your past has created. You will never break free into the health and vitality and abundance that your subconscious is fully capable of manifesting. If you will give it new instructions, different impressions, commands that reflect what you desire rather than what you have been experiencing. The man learned to use his symptoms as reminders to return to his night command, to see his pain as evidence that change was needed and therefore possible, to view his circumstances not as proof of limitation, but as invitation to demonstrate the power of consciousness over condition. And each night he spoke with authority into the darkness, commanding his subconscious to manifest health and harmony and perfect function, feeling gratitude for the healing that was occurring beneath the visible surface, trusting the law that operates independently of circumstances and responds only to the nature and persistence of the impressions made upon the creative subconscious mind. And his life began to transform because he had learned the secret that transforms all lives, the practice that heals all diseases, the command that awakens the cells and activates the infinite intelligence within to rebuild the body according to its original perfect pattern. The night command is your key to freedom, your path to healing, your access to the infinite creative power that dwells within your own consciousness. And this power is not reserved for the special few, not granted to the spiritually advanced, not available only to those with great faith or deep understanding, but is the birthright of every human being, the common inheritance of all who will learn the simple practice of impressing health upon the subconscious mind in those sacred moments before sleep, when the conscious resistance fades and the deeper intelligence stands ready to receive and obey and manifest whatever pattern you provide with conviction and feeling and persistent, faithful repetition night after night until the body conforms to the command and health appears in your flesh, as surely as dawn follows the darkness and harvest follows the planting of seed in receptive soil.